Hello and welcome to the final bell, the official Geelong Cats podcast. Great to have you with us for another week. We've been having a lot of fun. Last week was an absolute ball with Shannon Burns. Hopefully this week will be a whole lot of fun as well. We've got Mark Howard, Howie, from the number one podcast, Howie Games, coming on to have a chat about. We had a conversation with Chris Scott, the Cats coach. So getting a little bit of an insight from Howie, despite the fact he's a Hawk supporter, he's still welcome on this podcast. We'll get Esava Ratugolea, one of the young guns of the Cats team, on a little bit later on as well. We'll get to your questions. We'll get to the main topic of this first segment soon. A stupid idea by one of the wonderful people who works at the Cats, Tom Peters, but we're going to do it anyway. But as I like to do every single week, I welcome Scotty Gullan to the podcast. Hello, Scotty.
Hello, Cameron. Yeah, I'm very excited about this week. The homework has been intense, and I know you've enjoyed getting together something for our listeners.
I'm glad you're excited. I feel that uneasiness in my stomach, which makes me worry about what's going to come of this.
You do like fences, but you can't sit on this one, Cameron.
No, we're going to be naming a best 22 in a second, but I'll tell you the criteria about it in just a minute, because I welcome Matty Stokes to the podcast. And Stokesy, welcome first.
Thank you.
Panther Tyres are our great supporter of this podcast. We appreciate them being a part of bringing this podcast to the Cats listeners out there. I'm reliably told that you might have even used the service of Panther Tyres during the week to get the car picked up from your house. They do it all, don't they? They pick it up, they take it away, they get it all fixed and drop it back. How was the experience?
Well, I did get pushed into it by the missus. Amelia said that we needed the car getting serviced. So, you know, with our lovely sponsors and trying to give back to our own community, I went through it. It was a breeze. I didn't leave the house. I stayed on the couch and watched Netflix. Hours, they took the car, came back, and it worked perfectly. I mean, yeah, I didn't have to leave the house. Didn't have to do anything. Got a discount. So, look, I'm not complaining.
Beautiful. So while we are all locked away, if you do need your car serviced, new tyres, whatever it is, give the guys at Panther Tyres a call, and they will do exactly what they did for Stokesy. Don't leave your couch. They'll get your car, they'll get it all fixed up, and they'll get it back to you. So
they even take your kids too, apparently.
No, you just strapped yours into the kids' seat in the back and didn't tell them about it.
Exactly right. Thanks, Pato.
Good work to Panther Tyres there. Now, before we do get to a couple of... I've got one news topic I want to talk.
Yep.
Then we're going to do this ridiculous best team thing. Big congratulations to Olivia Purcell, AFLW Cats best and fairest winner and All-Australian. Congratulations, Olivia, on that achievement after a terrific season.
Couldn't make the best 22 and under team, but made the All-Australian.
I did see that. Was that the Players Association 22 under 22?
Allegedly a fan vote. They forgot our girl, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Please.
She is a star, and Nina Morrison featured highly, obviously, also.
Yes. Congratulations.
Lovely, wonderful woman she is.
Olivia?
Yep, she is.
Fantastic. Well, congrats. All-Australian and the best and fairest for the Cats. So well done to her. Hubs. Let's talk about that. Let's talk hubs.
Hubs. Well,
Scotty, am I
yes,
correct? Please just tell me if the facts need a little bit of massaging here. Potentially looking at 2 hubs where 9 teams will be based in each. The worst case scenario would be for the entire 20, maybe 22 weeks of this season. But a possible scenario is maybe it's only 4 or 5 weeks and things are going along so well that we can break back into a normal type scenario. But it looks like hubs are going to be used at some stage to get the AFL season rolling.
Oh, yeah, I think hubs are a lay-down misère now. Where is the question? The Gold Coast, and because you can use the Gabba in Brisbane, the Gold Coast, they're one of the favourites about the pick, and I think Melbourne would be the other.
With HBO Stadium getting used with Melbourne?
Well, you'd think that would be part of the Melbourne hub, surely. I mean, it's got all the facilities. You can play at night, etc. I think the players were part of a phone hookup and they got a bit scared when they were told potentially the worst case scenario, you could be 20 weeks in a hub with no family. So you might get 1 week where you can get out. This is if your team progresses to the finals. So the players are a bit uneasy at that.
Well, hang on. Is uneasy the right word? Other reports that are coming through, are they being sensationalised or are they accurate that some senior players are saying that they will stand themselves down from the season if the 20-week hub gets through?
There's obvious concerns with family, and if you've got young families, etc. Because the AFL's fitting the bill, and there'll only be about 30 players, so there's going to be a dozen players miss anyway from your own club. But they can't fit the bill to have families as well, and then you obviously can't have access because then you've got to quarantine. So there's still a bit of wiggle room to be sorted out. But initially, I think the players were a bit scared with that.
If all these key senior players say we're not doing it, could this torpedo the AFL season?
I don't think it will reach that, but there needs to be a wiggle room somewhere. Ideally, I think it's go play for the 5 weeks in the hub, come out for a week, then go back in possibly. The 20-week scenario was if the team progressed to the finals and then all the teams would come into one hub. So it's still got a bit of wiggle room, but there is a concern for the players at the moment.
Stokesy, in the most perfect world where the season's running beautifully, I would have hated the idea of going into a hub and being away from the family and my home and everything I wanted to do. But this is not a normal scenario. Surely players, and maybe it's easy for us to say because we're not playing anymore, but surely for the good of the game being able to go forward and have a season, it kind of feels like a scenario where you just suck it up for 5 or 6 weeks and see what happens after that, don't you? I mean, that's my initial feel.
Yeah, 100%, Ling. I'm in two different fields with this because in one part I'm saying to them, this game gives us a hell of a lot. We are able to live a lifestyle that we would never have been able to be given without the game of AFL footy. So for 160 years, this game has been able to give players the opportunity to live lives that possibility that you probably wouldn't have been able to live without it. The one time this game is begging for you to just give a little bit back, I think we need to. I think the players, and let's be honest, not everything that's been written is gospel. So I'm not throwing the players under the bus at all because I once was a player and I can understand the feel. But if the game is boycotted, there is not going to be anyone at our clubs that have jobs. Your players who are earning next to nothing from, not next to nothing, but in footy comparison, from 80 to 150, they're only going to receive 30% of their payments for the rest of the year. So that's the scary part. So if you're on $800 and $1 million, I can understand, I'll boycott the comp. I should have enough money in the bank to be able to get through this, but majority of the competition won't be able to do that. They've already been paid 50% of their pay for the year. So I can understand that they've probably got enough money to be able to get through. My fear is that there's going to be a lot of young players who aren't going to be able to get through this. And
it's a good point you make around just for this one horrible time where things aren't good, that the players go, well, okay, well, I'll just give back. I'll give back something that I don't really want to do, but in order to get the season rolling, I need to do it. And Scotty, if I'm correct in saying, initially it's a commitment of anywhere from, say, 5 to 8 weeks maybe, saying I can do that. And then other decisions will be made. And if the improvement in coronavirus continues, well, then the hubs will be disbanded. Or the worst case is they need the hubs going forward. They'll still get time to come back and have time with their family.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think that's the most likely scenario, Ling. I think we'll get, like you said, 5 to 6 week. You're in the go in the hub for, the 2 weeks, minimal pre-season, all training in the hub, and then play 4 or 5 weeks and then reassess it. I mean, this worst case scenario was for a team that went all the way to the grand final. Obviously, not every team's doing that. So I think you're right. I think it'll just, let's get it rolling. They don't want to start the season, obviously, but make it, the hubs is going to be an interesting world because you're going to have, I don't know, if there's 9 teams and which teams get to go interstate and which don't, like that's going to be a bit of a do you see Collingwood getting shunted up to the Gold Coast? Probably not. So they've got to figure. There's a lot of movement still to happen, but we're looking, I think, at mid to late June return.
Well, hopefully it does get back.
Have any issues, Lingy? If players are not actually understanding of how serious it is, why don't they just reach out to their assistant coaches or any staff at footy clubs? We ain't getting paid.
Yeah.
The assistant coaches are still expected to do a lot of work to follow up on players. They're not getting paid. We've got about 15 players at Clubland who are getting paid, but everyone's still, doing their bit to make sure that we get this great game going again. So I'm not trying to say the players are selfish. Even
more than that, Stokes, is those assistant coaches and staff are not getting paid right now, but the chances are when it all comes back, they're not going to come back. Or some of them are not going to come back.
It's a reality.
Yeah, because the jobs will no longer be available, no longer be there. No, you make a great point, Stokesy. Hopefully they do commit to it, and hopefully we do get a season rolling. I'm happy to keep talking Hubs if you like for another 20 minutes or so.
I'm already bored.
Cover off the fact that we don't have to do this challenge. That Tommy, now for our listeners, Tommy Peters is one of the great club people of the Geelong Football Club. He was there when I first started, or just after I started. Has been in the media department, in the digital, the social content, everything. Just runs the entire show when it comes to podcast, website, social, everything like that. All the digital content. He's a great man. He's a smart man. He's a high-quality club person. But in this particular case, he is a complete and utter tool because he has thrown out the challenge to us to name the best 22 since 1990 in the AFL era to play a game, to play a big preliminary final or a grand final. It is a stupid challenge to put to us because we are going to burn so many of our great mates' bridges here. And
no, it's called having an opinion, Cameron.
We're not going to... Stokes, I won't be able to turn up to Premiership reunions now.
I think Mathew will be able to stride in, no problem.
That's how I roll, Cameron.
I love Tom Peters, but I'll be getting retribution on him at some stage for putting us through this. All right.
I've been so excited all week. Let's go.
Criteria since 1990, AFL era.
87 technically, but yeah.
Well, I don't think they still called it the VFL 87-88.
Did they?
I think the official name changed to the AFL in 1990. Do some research. That's right.
Hang on. All right. keep talking amongst yourselves. Keep going.
Okay. It is to play a game, and a big game, against another really good team.
We're playing against Hawthorn.
Yep. In a huge prelim or a grand final, and we're going to beat them again. We're going to beat them this time. From the back line.
Okay, how are we going to do it? Each individual does his three?
Each line, yep. Stokesy, your back line, your full back line.
My full back line. Have you got it?
Yeah, go.
Enright.
Yep.
Scarlett.
Yep.
Harley, captain.
Ooh.
You've named a skipper. Okay, I hadn't actually named a skipper, but yep. Yours, Scotty.
Hang on.
We're going.
No, just full back line.
Go, sorry.
Scotty.
Milburn, Scarlett, Enright for me.
Ooh, I've gone Milburn, Scarlett, James Kelly, courtesy of his 2009 performance on Stephen Milne, and his versatility as a great teammate is in my back pocket.
I like that.
Thank you. Not too
much. Halfback, Stokesy.
Halfback, Hinkley, Lonigan, Milburn.
Oh, okay. Nice. Scotty?
Ooh. Mackie, Taylor, Hinkley.
Okay. Well, see, we're on a similar path here. I've got Hinkley as well. I've got Enright on the halfback. You boys had him in the back pocket. And I've gone Harry Taylor at centre halfback, just getting the nod over the great Doms, who will feature a little later on. Not too many arguments?
No, happy with that.
Centre line.
Corey, Selwood, VC, and Couch.
Bartel. Couch on a wing, yeah.
Couch on a wing, Stokes.
Yep.
He couldn't run out of sight in the dark night.
Don't need to. Just needs to play, mate.
Bartel, Couch, Selwood on a wing, which is sort of just midfield.
What the
on ball.
hell?
See, no, you guys are just plucking. You got to
He's
play
played
them
on the wing this year. He has played on the wing previously, Cameron.
Please. This is to play a game of football. You need genuine wingmen.
Can we do
Stokesy's got Couch on a wing. You've got Selwood on a wing.
Yeah, his versatility.
I've got Riccardi on a wing.
Yep.
Genuine winger. Joel Corey in the middle. And Andrew Mackey on the wing for that outside ball use, running through 60, nailing goals.
For 5 minutes.
He's never played in the wing in his life.
The rubbish. He played a lot on the wing. And he
was
played
a half-forward flanker.
He played half forward, couldn't get a kick, went to the wing, couldn't get a kick, then went to half back.
Correct.
Hang on, Stokes. Let's be honest. He played half back like he played like a wingman. He never went near a man and just ran up and down that one side of the ground.
Rubbish.
You're spraying us and then you're doing that, please.
Half forward line.
Johnson, Brownless, Dangerfield.
What? Gullan?
Chapman, Stoneham, Johnson.
You two on something?
What's wrong with that, Cameron?
So we've all got Stevie J on a half forward
Half-forward flank.
You've gone Brownless and you've gone Stoneham.
Brownless really won a Brownlow.
Stoneham
who's your full forward?
What?
Well, we're not getting to that, Cameron.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I got Tom Hawkins at centre half forward.
Oh, he's never been near the centre half forward position.
Rubbish.
In his life.
He does some of his best work when he gets up the ground a little bit too.
I need it when you got Billy Brownless just chucking speckies on people.
Barry Stoneham was nearly the best player in the comp for a couple of years.
Listen, Baz is making the 22, but Hawks centre half forward.
Yeah,
and I've got a resting on baller at half forward.
Who?
What are you, Stokesy? I've got Gary Hocking.
Well, Gary Hocking comes into my team later.
Yeah, half forward. Okay. Forward line. Full forward line.
Max Rook.
Yes, me too.
Hawkins. And the senior.
Okay. Gullan.
I've got Tomahawk in the pocket as the tall senior full forward and Patrick Dangerfield rotating through the midfield.
Can I ask a question? We're playing a real game. Out of your forward line, Scott Gullan, who is going to chase a man?
Yes.
No, well, we're an offensive team that just run and gun.
Malcolm Blight tried that. It didn't quite get him over the line.
Well, this team, it will work, Cameron, because I'm coaching it.
I've got Rook as well, Stokesy, in a pocket. Yes. I've got Gary Senior at full forward. We just him and Hawks at centre forward, Gaz Senior at full forward, and then the great Paul Chapman in the forward pocket.
Yep.
You stop a forward line of Chapman, Johnson, Rook, and Buddha at ground level with Senior and Hawk taking hangers. Good luck.
Yeah, no, that's fairly solid.
The Ruck Rover and Rover.
Ottens.
Yes.
Buddha, Junior.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly the same. Ottens, Buddha, Junior.
So I had Buddha resting at half forward. So I went Ottens, Selwood, Junior.
Okay.
We can work with that.
Okay.
We can work with that one.
Interchange, which gets us to who we've left out of this team.
There's only 4 allowed.
Stokes, 4 allowed.
Well, I need another forward, so I put Chapman on the bench.
Oh, he's going to hunt you down. He's going to rip your head off.
I know. Kelly, because of the fact that what you said, Lingy, with his role when we need him down back, we have you, because we always need a Dow bloke to stop a midfielder.
I'm not getting a game in this team, but thank you, Stokesy.
No worries. Oh, well, I'm playing against Hawthorn. I need you to come on and take care of Mitchell. And then I've got Jimmy Bartel.
Ooh, bench. I have Joel Corey, who will alternate with Paul Couch, James Kelly, Peter Riccardi for some pace on the wing, and Cameron Ling making the extended interchange.
You boys are absolute gentlemen, but I'm not sure about that. Corey, who was this?
Ling, Kelly, Riccardi.
Kelly Riccardi. Nice. Okay. I have Paul Couch on the bench, unlucky
Yes.
to be pushed out of the centre. I have Jimmy Bartell.
Oh, he'll take that well. Keep going.
Yeah, that's the one I'm most nervous about. I have Tom Lonigan, just in case. We're playing Hawks, as you said, just in case Buddy gets away from us.
Can we have a drum roll? Have we got any effects? Drum roll, please. The last player in Cameron Ling's team is?
Patrick Dangerfield.
Oh! You've changed that.
No, I have not changed that. He, despite it only being 5 years body of work at the Cats, he just squeezes into the team.
He's won a Brownlow, 3 B&S.
Exactly.
He's been the most dominant player in the competition.
That's why he...
And he's the 22nd man.
It's in no particular order. 5 years.
So you're pretty much telling us that Patrick Dangerfield would have been wearing the vest.
I'm not having any subs in this team. No one could be wearing that vest. It left out, though, and with a very heavy heart, it left out Barry Stoneham.
Ooh.
Because I gave Hawkins the
centre forward.
Just. That was the one I wrestled with most. Plus, Paul Couch in the centre versus Joel Corey in the centre. But as you guys know, I've got the greatest man crush in history on Joel Corey.
True.
Yep.
So I gave him the nod in the middle of the ground. And I did it on an entire expanse of a career in the blue and white hoops only.
Okay. No, they're very good teams.
My unlucky one was, and it might get laughed at, but I would be a team. I think I'd always take in 2 ruckmen. So I actually was trying to figure out a way of trying to get Stephen King in there, because if we were going to do a proper team, I would like to have 2 ruckmen. I'd be a 2 ruckman coach.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And to be honest, with Couchy, I wasn't old enough to watch Couchy, so the reason why I put him on the wing was because I had never seen him play.
No, that's fair enough. And he, for those who did, and I grew up watching him very closely, the centre was his domain. He was like Greg Williams and those types of players, almost didn't leave that centre square, but just went to work in it. His beautiful ball use and vision and time and everything. Incredible footballer, but as I said, Joel Corey is almost my ultimate teammate. So I'm glad you put Rookie in though, Stokesy. I'm really happy with that.
Oh, he was my first pick.
Let's go.
Actually, and Moons, I'm really sorry, Moons.
Oh, yeah, the Moon
yes.
dog.
You're my brother, but...
how are we going to face up to Moons?
I don't know. I'm glad we're in ISO.
That makes me feel a little nervous, a little sick.
Out of my house, I'm calling the cops.
So what we're asking for our listeners out there, our 22s are going to be posted on the website, and we can do a little social media. Since 1990, and only their time for the blue and white hoops, which I can understand a little debate. Gaz Jr.'s in there, no worries at all, but
no,
we have a fair chunk at the Gold Coast Suns. Patrick Dangerfield, big chunk at the Adelaide Crows. Listeners out there, please let us know what you think. Please let us know if you've got any major changes, we've left anyone out. But we want to know, out of those 3 teams, who's the best team? Who wins? Next week's podcast, we want to have a winner of this game. If those 3 teams were playing each other in a magical, mythical world, who would win? Between mine, Scotty Gullan's, and Stokesy's. There's no way yours would, Scotty. I wouldn't have thought.
Just because I didn't have a couple of tacklers, I'll kick 35 goals. Offense.
Hey, every now and again, you can't have everyone just going forward.
Yep. That wasn't too bad. We were reasonably similar.
Were very close. Very close. I mean,
who did you leave out of the back line, Stokesy? You put Tommy Harley in there.
I'll put Hales in there because...
Harry Taylor didn't get it.
You left out Harry.
Yeah, look. Ooh. Sorry, Harold. I think Hales was just the glue that put us together. And with all those egos in that team, the amount of buffheads that we have, I would need Hales to just be able to just go, boys, we need to get together.
That is a great point.
It's a very good
great point. Well,
I think
imagine,
you both gave love to Domsy.
Hey?
Oh, yeah. Domsy.
You both gave a lot of love to Domsy.
Mate, I like I said a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not because he's on the podcast. I honestly, apart from Scalo and Boris, I don't think there was a more important person in our backline than Tom Lonergan. I think he was extremely underrated from the outside, as was Josh Hunt.
Josh Hunt as well, yeah. I mean, imagine, so Travis Cloak job, 2011.
2011?
Yeah.
Buddy, most games. He took big scalps. And Travis Cloak, he didn't just take a big scalp. He took a big scalp in phenomenal form, who was threatening to tear that 2011 grand final apart, and came on and did a job, an incredible job. Could you imagine the battles to get time in the midfield? So you got Joel Corey in my team. Joel Corey, Sal and Gaz starting in the middle. Standing outside the centre square is Johnson, Chapman, Buddha Hocking, with maybe a bench of Bartel and Couch at different times, screaming for their change. Give me a couple of minutes on ball. Get out.
Can you imagine Nyes Lappin, the runner, trying to get those guys out of there? Poor Nyes Lappin would have had a nightmare.
I think we've done well there, boys. I think we've done very, very well. Let's see what our listeners think of those teams. Let us know who the winner is, but let us know who we left out, who should have been in there. I think, as always with these types of things, Scotty, we'll get some gentle feedback.
Oh, it'll be gentle. Yeah, you two will get harder text messages than I. I send my best wishes to Jimmy Bartel and a few others who will be ringing you, Cameron.
Is there anyone in the current players that could have actually might sneak into that team?
Well, we've got Dangerfield, Hawkins, Selwood, haven't we?
Yeah.
Dangerfield, with a couple more years going, he'll get into the starting 18.
Harry Taylor's still going.
He'll pass on the sub.
I'm not sure, actually. I think it's
Chuka Constable, if you got a good run at it.
Yeah.
Jordan Clark coming off halfback.
Yeah, this is good. Big Sav, we might have him instead of Barry Stoneham.
No, it's a good team. I think
it's a very good team.
Let us know, please. We won't do listener questions right now, only because we've gone on a little bit longer than we normally would in this first segment. But as part of listener questions next week, we'll talk a bit about the feedback from these teams. And Tommy Peters, thank you again for that incredible suggestion of making us do that. Now I'm going to be dodging my former teammates left, right and centre over the next couple of months. Jimmy's not going to be happy that he's on the bench.
Oh, yeah, I'll put him on the bench too. That reunion will be fun this year.
Where did you have him, Scotty? Bartel?
He was on the wing.
Oh, wing?
Versatile midfield. There's no traditional wingers anymore. They're just midfielders.
Even more so, they're traditional wingers. Clubs have gone and targeted wingers.
On the ground, James, and
dominated. That's why he's the ultimate man off
Brownlows. He doesn't sit on pine, James Bartel.
I tell you what you're doing. You're sitting on the fence with him. You can't put him on a wing. On ball, forward, back, whatever you want with him.
Wingers are now classed as on ballers, Cameron. It's the modern age.
Stop it. We've got to take a break. Mark Howard is trying to jump on the line. He wants to have a chat to us, Howie, the man from Howie Games. He's had a chat with Chris Scott. He's spoken with our mate, Zach Toohey. He's spoken to all the big names throughout his podcast. So we're going to chat to him. Esava Ratugolea a little bit later on, but let's take a break. Welcome back. You're listening to The Final Bell, brought to you by Panther Tyres. Stokesy's given us a little rundown on a beautiful service that Panther Tyres provides to all of its customers. So make sure you check out the guys at Panther Tyres in Lara. As promised, our next guest is one who's making me a little bit nervous, Scotty and Stokesy, because this is a man who is outstanding at the podcasting game. So we're going to have to bring our A game to this one. Mark Howard, Howie from Howie Games. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Lingy. Hello, Scotty. And hello, Stoker. I've got to say right off the top, I'm very happy to do this because when the Cats were tough and mean in 09 and 11, and there was the likes of Scarlett who didn't want to talk and Mooney who was scary, My man, the Stoker, post-game, would always have a chat to me on the boundary at Channel 10 when none of you other blokes would. So I'm always indebted to the Stoke.
I'm always for free. That's why, Howie.
How have we managed to drag you out of the water, though, Howie? Surfing is one of the few things we can still do right now. You're just beautifully set up near 13th Beach and Vancouver and all those beautiful waves. Have you just been living in the water lately?
Yeah, I have been surfing a lot. It's funny, we're recording this on Wednesday morning and it's light northerly now and about 2 foot. It's about to go wild. So I've had a surf this morning. I haven't seen Scotty out in the wetsuit much at Bowenheads, but I'm looking forward to that.
I may be, I was going to say jogging, but walking past at around 5 o'clock. And social distancing is not an issue down there, Howie. There's more tradies and people that I've ever seen.
No, but you can't surf within 1.5 meters of anyone. So, no, it is pretty relaxed down here. Everyone's doing the right thing. But, it's going to be interesting. I think the weather's going to change the Savo and people are going to be having to spend a lot more time inside. So, I know everyone's doing the right thing, but it's going to get a little bit harder, I think, when the weather turns.
Howie, can you do us a favour as a challenge over we'll give you for the rest of the year to do this. If you can capture that one photo of Scott Gullan just strutting along the beach, just in the budgie smugglers, just the full
I do regularly,
rig out. Can you get a photo for us?
I can work hard on it. I saw him running the other day, and he was running past me. And he
it was dark, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was getting dark. He looked a bit like who did he look like? He looked like
be very careful here.
A cross between Billy Brownless and
gee, you started well.
I don't know, but he did stop, and I'd had enough chatting with him. But Scotty spoke for about another 15 minutes because I just think he wanted to chop out on his part. But no, he's a good man. He's the star of Bowenhead. Scotty and Cadell Evans are the big names down here.
Yeah, that's it. Me and him. That's it. I know where you live, Mark. Keep going.
Now, Stokesy, I have no idea why we've actually invited Howie onto this podcast because I'm reliably told, as everybody would know, a very passionate Hawthorn supporter. But I am very reliably told, Stokesy, that this man wanted to make sure that his child would follow in the footsteps of that evil pathway down the brown and gold and was once, is this correct, Howie, once hid a Geelong membership pack that got sent to your son, I believe, hid it from him so that he would be no chance to be corrupted to the blue and white. Is that correct?
It's funny you say that because I'm in the office and it's still on the top shelf. Tommy Peters sent it to me. It was the complete stitch up. And my young fella was right in that phase where he goes to school at Bowenheads and 94% of the kids go to Geelong. He goes to Auskick, and they're all wearing Dangerfield, Ablett, etc. So he was starting to sway, and then this package arrives, and it had his name on it, and he saw it. And he said, "Dad, did that have my name on it?" I said, "No, mate, that says Mark, not Mac." And he's never seen it since, and he's a good Hawthorn man now. But I must say, spending a lot of time down here, we do have a lot of time for the Cats, and they've always been a wonderful club to deal with. And a lot of the early games I did on the boundary were down at the Cattery. So my favourite time down there, I did a game early doors at Channel 10, and it was an unusual ground because every other game you go to, a ground you go to, as you guys know, it's different people in the crowd. But every week at Geelong, it's the same people sitting in the same seats. So you'd have the same people sitting behind you, and there was a friendly couple there that used to dish me out the hot chocolate at about half time. As I got to know them better, they started to top it up with the whiskey. That's to Channel 10. It had come at 3/4 time, and I needed to steady things down so I could grab someone at the end of the game. So always very friendly people down there at the Cattery.
Stokesy, some of those friendly people at the Cattery were usually the little old ladies who had the rugs on their knees. They could dish out the greatest sprays of anyone in the crowd, couldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the ones that they used to, you bump into them before you run into get into the change rooms. The ones I used to love were the ones on the way out. You know, the old lady, I still remember it as clear as day. There was 2 old ladies. I can't remember their names, but one of them, I could have 3 possessions and she could convince me that I was going to get 3 votes. But the other lady would just go to town and telling me how useless I was and maybe come back to training the next morning and work on a few skills. So, God damn, I love those old ladies and the old people. I mean, I think we're all missing those types of people at the moment in the footy world.
It is crazy times, isn't it, Howie? I mean, we now in the jobs that we do, we sit around and we want to talk about footy and we want to go to the games and everything like that. But we were talking a little earlier about maybe footy getting a restart with some of these hubs happening and players being isolated in hubs and all that. You usually have your ear to the ground very well. What are you hearing? When's a rough start date? How's it all going to play out? Have you heard?
Well, I think they're doing the right thing and they're following all the government measures and the chief medical officer. I'm fascinated to see what happens with the NRL. I'm a massive fan of Peter V'landys because he just seems to get things done. So they're powering ahead, talking late May. You'd imagine if that goes well, then it's certainly going to help every other sports cause, which will include the AFL. I think if there's no further medical outbreaks, which is out of my depth, late June is what they're talking. Scotty's pretty connected to this type of stuff. Late June. I still don't quite really understand the hub situation. I can understand the players thinking about it might be tough if we're not seeing our families, etc. But I guess it's tough for everyone. But hopefully late June. Be good if the Cattery was one of the hubs and I could just travel up the road and commentate every single game at the Cattery with a bit of self-interest. But hopefully late June because, well, Scotty, you would know more than anyone. I think you've got to follow the rules, but we miss sport tremendously. It unites people. It brings us together, especially in Victoria with footy. So I think it'll give everyone a tremendous mental lift as well when they can sit at home and watch their team play again and listen to the radio and all the things that go on. The great job you do, Lingy, and the broadcasters at 7 and Fox. I think we really, really miss it. So hopefully it's back sooner rather than later.
Oh, no doubt. And, it's linked to so many other jobs like Stokes has mentioned before. And I think it's good for our mental health. It's good for everything. So the hubs, I mean, that was the worst case scenario that was mentioned today, 20 weeks out of 21. They're going to have to suck it up and be away from family for certain parts, but I don't think it'll be as dramatic as was said today.
Now, as part of this process, this quarantine, this pause in the season, Howie, there's been a lot of reminiscing and a lot of chats about different things. Your podcast is, am I correct? A little pump up here. #1 downloaded podcast in Australia for the last few years. Is that correct?
As far as sport goes, it's
fantastic.
Thank you. It's we've had some very, very good guests on. So the people tuning for the guests, not me, but it's really good fun. It's probably my favourite part of the job, to be honest.
You've had Chris Scott on just recently, though. How did that go with the Cats coach? Yeah,
it was fascinating. I've always had tremendous amount of respect for him, and he's always been really good to deal with. And he actually rang me the week before to discuss what I wanted to talk to him about because he wasn't comfortable, really. I think it'd be fair to say, because he's a man that doesn't really enjoy the spotlight, doesn't like talking about himself. So we had a 20-minute conversation. And I said the gist of why I wanted to get him on was that there'd been stories that he'd given up his pay during this period. And that sounds like an easy thing to do. But when you consider you have to go home and tell your family and discuss it with your wife and think about your mortgage and all those things that you have to do to say, I'm not going to take any pay. I didn't want to talk to him so much about that, but what he felt about an organisation that he was prepared to do that for. It intrigued me that a man could have that much love and loyalty for an organisation. And he started off, we talk about all sorts of things and we can chat about it if you want, but he started off talking about if Geelong sacked him tomorrow, he would still be forever indebted to the club. And he's just such a wonderful advocate for your football club. And he's such a committed and loyal man. But the fact that he could sit there and say, I owe the club, not the other way around, I found absolutely brilliant.
How did you get any playing career out of him? Because we had him on recently and you drift him down towards it and then he'll say about one sentence, it's like it didn't happen. He's a 2-time flag man, isn't he?
Well, see, that's why you blokes are battling away on your Geelong podcast, not the #1.
We're #2, just
in the country, Lingy. No, we spoke. So the podcast goes for an hour and a half, and I struggled.
Wow.
I struggled. I only got about 50 minutes of his playing career. So no, he was good. He was really good. He talked about Ling Mathews and the effect that he had, and how tough it was in Brisbane at the time, and how probably overall he looks that he didn't achieve what he wanted to personally in his own football career from his own output. what it was like playing with his brother. So, no, pretty much blow by blow, Scotty. So, I don't know what you guys did wrong.
Did he talk about his fascination with the hubs and where the hubs will be set up? Because we all know that Scotty can't go a day without playing golf. So, obviously, the hubs that have been based up in Queensland out in the Royal Pines next to Metricon, did he talk about anything to do with he'd be quite happy to go to the Gold Coast? Because I can imagine he would be training in the morning and then on the golf course all afternoon.
He didn't specifically talk about the hub, Stoker, but he talked about his love of golf and some of the courses he played, and if he could play one course, what it would be. The other thing he talked about, do you three fine gentlemen know what sous vide is?
Sous vide?
Yep.
Is that a cooking thing?
Scotty, you're the most intellectual of all us. There, you nailed it.
I'm a MasterChef man, so I'm across this. That's when you put plastic, you put it in. You put the food in plastic, the meat in plastic or something. Howie, am I onto it?
You do. Yeah, I said to him, say that Nat Fyfe was coming round for dinner because he was thinking about joining the Cats, and you had to cook one meal. What would you cook? And he talked about the fact that 3 nights a week he cooks a steak. He loves his ribeye. And you put it in a plastic bag, like you said, Scotty, and you slightly boil it and then grill it at the end. And he said
that's next level.
Yeah, it is. So he talked about all sorts of things, but the thing that really fascinated me was I talked to him about what it's like, Stoker and Lingy, when you have to call a bloke into his office and the club's decided that he's no longer going to be part of the club. And he said, that's definitely the hardest part of the job at times. He said, and I quote, it's nearly broken me and it's made me ask whether it's all worthwhile. So, you know, they're the conversations that you guys know in footy clubs happen all the time. So he was pretty in-depth about the difficult side of managing men and having to, at stages, shut their dream up on them.
That'll be really interesting to hear because he not only has to do it and had to do it, that's part of the role of being a senior coach, but he had to do it to legends of the football club, Premiership heroes, multiple Premiership heroes. That would have been such an incredibly difficult time for him. To hear him talk about that will be really interesting.
Yeah, and I use the example, you know, what's it like when a 64-game player came in and when he answered the question, he said, you know what, it's not the 64-game players, it's the 250-game players. And he said it's not one conversation, it's a series of conversations. And also he explained to me in the modern footy world, which you guys would understand, it's not just his decision. In fact, it's often not his decision. And he may not even agree with the decision, but still has to be the one to pull the trigger. So, yeah, fascinating. Also talked about how difficult he takes losses and how he doesn't sleep at night. And he doesn't think about what everyone else did wrong in the game. He thinks about what he did wrong and how he could improve it. So, Scotty, you see these guys as up close in a media perspective. Sometimes I don't think we realise how hard they ride the bump, how all-encompassing the job can be to coach a footy club. It's almost an obsession for these guys, I think.
Oh, they're like the elite athletes. They're all a bit mad. You've got to be mad. I mean, you've got to be off your chops, really, to deal with, you know, you got 40 or 50 blokes, you got the pressure. I mean, he's been going for, 9 years or whatever it is. I mean, you got to be a little bit mad. And clearly, if he sous vides his steak, he's not quite there.
Well, I spoke to Kenny Hinkley about that when Kenny, about 12 months into taking the job at Port Adelaide, I said, what's the big difference, apart from, increased roles and that, being an assistant coach to the senior coach? And he said, it's just so personal. It's he's the coach. It feels like it's just his baby and he wants to shape it so perfectly and get every player doing everything right. But when it doesn't work and it's not quite working, it's frustrating. He just felt it was so much more personal that he'd let people down as the senior coach as opposed to an assistant coach. And I suppose over time that just multiplies out, and every little blue, and when there's not the success coming that you want and some player doesn't quite hit the peak of their form like they thought they were going to, as the senior coach, it must just wear at you bit by bit to the point where they do go a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I think they're all in their own different ways a little bit different. And if they're not different, when they we on the radio station I work for on Sundays, we're going to have Ross Lyon on this year, and he came in for the first show before the footy got put on hold, and it was, who is this bloke? Like he was like so warm and engaging and funny, and it was like, and he said, well, this is me, but sometimes I can't be like this when I'm coaching. So, yeah, there's a different side. How did you find Chris Stoker? Obviously, he took you to your second premiership. You were with him in 2011. What was he like for the Stoker?
He was all right. It was really difficult.
don't wrap him up too much, Stoker.
He was all right. It was difficult because, and then you can attest to this. We came from Bomber, who, like, for me, he was a father figure for me. I was a young kid when I got to Geelong, and Bomber, he rode me very hard. I mean, he would smash me every possibility, every chance he got. And then, so we went from a coach that he would call me once a week to see what I was doing, how I was going, to Scotty, who was more, okay, I've got this great list. All I have to do is a few little changes and we could make it go good again. And for me, what I needed was the Bomber side. And I would have loved to ask Scotty, and you probably can never answer the questions, but I really like the fact that when you come to the end of the year, and this is a bit of a joke, but the retirement and the you've been sacked part. I see a lot of people get retired. I've retired this year. I'd really love to know how many of those conversations that Scotty and Hawk, Stephen Wells, now Simon Lloyd at our footy club go in saying, all right, we're sacking you, but to save face and help you out moving on, you should just say you're retired. I'm really fascinated in those conversations, a sense of what the reality is behind those conversations.
They would be the hardest ones, wouldn't they? Because, and I know in my case, and same in my year was Cam Mooney and Brad Ottens, very much the individual's choices. But I know going forward after that, Scotty had to perhaps encourage people and Scotty and the Neil Baum and everyone involved had to encourage people to retire, perhaps, which they weren't necessarily ready to retire. And we saw a couple of players want to go on and have a couple of years at other clubs just to satisfy that last little itch. And that's probably important. I had a supporter ask me, did you hate the fact that Paul Chapman went and played a couple of years at the Bombers and Stevie went to the Giants? And I'm like, no way. They still felt they had footy in their body. They just wanted to play footy. They loved it so much that if they weren't mentally ready to finish, then why not let them just keep playing some footy until they got to the point. I reckon Chabby realised halfway through his last year, he's like, okay, yeah, body-wise, I can't do it anymore and it's gone past me a bit. I now retire happy and a bit more peaceful in the mind. Whereas if he'd just been forced, that's it, you're done, you don't have those extra couple of years, probably would have held on to a real angst and thought, no, this is rubbish, I should have played a couple more years.
I think we missed Barmy because I thought if Barmy was still there, so Hawks are you're out. But Barmy, I reckon we could try and weasel him to give me another year because he's just a big teddy bear. Come on, Barmy, I've got no money. Stokes, he'll give you another year. I reckon a lot of us players definitely miss Barmy in those last couple of years.
Howie, I'm always been, not obsessed, but interested with the twin thing with Chris and Brad. I mean, if you step back and go, they both coach AFL football for 10 years. I know they hate talking about it. Did you get anywhere on the twin thing?
Yeah, I asked him about it because I went back and looked at the first press conference. I think the only press conference they did back in both teams were flying, and it was the first time they'd coached against each other. And someone asked a question from the floor. I think it was Mark Robinson at the end of the press conference, saying, was that as bad as you thought it was? And Chris replies, no, it was even worse. But we did. We talked about it. We talked about growing up because they lost their father at a young age, and he spoke about his father who's served for the country and his mum and what his mum did for them. But, yeah, we talked about being a twin and what it was like and how he encouraged his brother to come from Hawthorn to Brisbane, and then obviously played in those couple of premierships together. But I've got twins in my family. Both my sisters have got twins. Geez, I'm lucky I dodged that bullet. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So there's always that thing about twins about whether they have that, freaky ESP type thing. And he's not a X-Files type man. You mean Chris Scott by any stretch of the imagination. But he said there are things that happen in life where he feels a different connection with his twins. So, we did talk about it. But they are reluctant. You're right. They are reluctant to talk about that side of things. But again, it's the difference between you newspaper journos and us real sort of in-depth type operators. We get these answers, Scotty.
That's a very, very good point.
Outstanding, Howie. It's definitely worth a listen to our listeners here, the Cats fans, want to listen to Chris Scott's chat with Howie on the Howie Games. Download that. People know where to get podcasts now. Yes. Lots of different options. Before we let you go, though, just want one last one on, I think you flipped around and like you are now, were a guest on a podcast. Probably one of the great podcasts in history that's ever come out. Our man Scotty, our former co-host who's dumped us this year, Zach Toohey and Lockie Henderson.
Well, hang on. I think we may have dumped it, but yeah, keep going.
The elephant rope. How did you rate Zach Toohey's performance as host of a podcast when he got you on for a chat?
Well, it's funny you say that because they emailed me and I got a lot of time I know Lockie and I got to know Zach, and they said, this podcast is the biggest thing since sliced bread. This is going to take over the internet. I looked the other day, they've still only done 4 episodes, and they did one with me about a year ago. So they've got themselves, Sally Fitzgibbons and Mick Fanning, and I think that's about it. No, they were good. Zach was a bit more dominant. I felt a bit sorry for Hendo, who couldn't get a word in there for a while. But they did present me a very nice bottle of whiskey, and I've never drunk whiskey in my life, but isolation has been getting to me, and I cracked it open last Friday night. I don't know how people drink whiskey, but I woke up with a headache courtesy of the podcast. So thank you to those two. Now, if you can do me a favour.
Yes.
There's a few people I'd love to get on the show. Tom Brady.
No worries.
All right. Okay, good.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, I don't think you can help with. Kelly Slater, I don't think you can help with.
I'll send you both their numbers.
Tiger, I don't think you can help with. Gazza. Little
Gaz.
I'd say the other 3 are easier to get than Gaz. Stokes, did you get him?
The coach said he would ask him for me. Lockie said he'd ask him for me, but I'm getting donuts.
Yeah, they don't really ask, you know.
No, I don't think so.
They're scared of little Gaz.
Stokesy, could you get him?
Look, me and Gaz, we're 2-1 at the moment on the basketball court, so we're due for another basketball game. I can put it towards you, but I've got to be honest with you, we come as a team. If you want Gaz, you're going to have to put up with me. So unfortunately,
next basketball game, if you beat him, put the terms to him that he has to do Howie's podcast.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm up 2-1 at the moment. So once we're allowed back in the footy club and play in that beautiful basketball court that we were able to put in there, if I beat him again, Howie, I'll try and...
Thank you, Stoker. Tell him it's all about positivity and motivation, which is what it's about. There's no curly questions. And if it's a deal, if I have the two of you together, just be prepared to sit there, as much as I love you, an hour and a half and do absolutely bugger all.
I get that. Yes, fine.
Sounds very similar to what he brings to this podcast, Howie. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. Enjoy a little bit more isolation, a little bit more surfing, but do look forward to seeing you around the footy traps when the footy starts up again. Great to have a chat.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And I just want you to know what this means to me coming on this show, because if my father ever hears that I've been on a Geelong podcast, I'll be chucked out of the will. So this is what I've done for you guys.
Just get that membership pack down and give it to your son, mate. Stop being so mean. We're going to take another quick break. We've got Esava Ratugolea, the big Sav. What do we call him, Stokesy? The big sexy?
Little sexy.
The little sexy. He's coming up next. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on To the Final Bell, brought to you by Panther Tyres. I really enjoyed that chat with Mark Howard. Do jump on and download Howie Games and have a listen to his chat with Chris Scott. Maybe don't go and jump on and listen to The Elephant Rope, Zach Toohey and Lockie Henderson's podcast.
Hard to believe it hasn't kicked on.
No more than 4 episodes, but those 4 were absolute gold. And speaking of gold, our next guest is, well, a favourite of all of ours on this podcast, and certainly a fan favourite amongst the Cats. Esava Ratugolea, big Sav. Hang on, Sav. What am I supposed to call you, Stokesy? What? Little sexy or
little sexy?
Little sexy.
Yeah, that'll do.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
What? Just let's get that out of the way. What the hell between you and Stokesy? Please tell me you don't call him Big Sexy.
Yeah, I call him Big Sexy, mate, and he calls me Little Sexy. I don't know. It just came up randomly. One day I was running around the track and I hear this little man yell out, "Hey, Big Sexy!" And then I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And then he just stuck, and then he just ended up changing, and now he's Big Sexy. I'm Little Sexy, so
Stokesy,
it works out well.
what is it with you just wanting to stir big guys? Your relationship with Brad Ottens was legendary. You're a little chihuahua who just kept going at him, wouldn't let up on him, and now you're stirring up the big Sav.
Well, the way I look at it, Cameron, is I like to think like Jurassic Park, the little raptors versus big T-Rex. Me and Bernsey were always a little raptor, just big idiots who are just tall and get given 10-year contracts. We like to just bring them down a little bit. But Sav's one of my favourites. I started as a big sexy Fijian and then obviously now changed to Little Sexy. So I love Sav. I worked with him at the academy before he got to Geelong, and every time we have an Aboriginal lunch or breakfast or dinner, somehow this bloke comes in, thinks he's Aboriginal and pops up. So
No. I'm part of the Brother Boys. Don't worry about
brother
that. Boy. Living with Brandon and Quinton, I automatically just put myself in that group. So any free lunch that Stokes is shouting, I'm in.
Now, we do hear some interesting stories about that household. Yourself, Brandon Parfitt and Quinton Narkle, just real sort of professional, the food was spot on, skin folds very low. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, of course, mate. It was the most professional house there was. But no, the cooking was good, mate. Brandon Parfitt's an unbelievable cook, and he taught me a few things with a few dishes and that. But no, it was a very fun household. We got up to a lot of stuff. It was a lot of memories were made.
So has it been broken up? The trio broken up, Sav?
Yeah, the trio's broken up, mate. I moved into my house early last year, so we're all still pretty close, but it's just separate houses now.
Is that where you're currently isolating and going through this waiting period?
Yeah, mate. Yep. Currently isolating here and very bored at the moment. Trying to keep myself busy. I'm doing a bit of gardening, trying to teach myself how to look after the garden. So, something's wrong when I'm gardening.
Hang on. I live around the corner from Little Sexy, and I haven't seen you out your garden. And your garden still looks like crap.
In the backyard, mate. Fences are tall.
Okay.
What's been the hardest thing, Sav? I mean, just the not knowing, keeping fit, keeping sane. What's it been like for you?
Yeah, the hardest thing is just not knowing a certain date when we can all come back. So it's just I don't have a goal that I can sort of work towards. So it's just I guess it's just finding motivation to keep fit and keep training and keep going to the program. But again, like I'm enjoying it. I'm finding things to do, trying to keep busy and catching up with a few mates, kicking the footy around and things like that. But yeah, that's the hardest thing, just trying to keep fit without not knowing when we can get back and training with the boys. So hopefully we'll get an update and comes out soon.
Just the one question our listeners will want to hear. How's the body? All travelling okay? I suppose a chance to get fresh and get over any little niggles and then build up to whenever round 2 comes about.
Yeah, the body feels pretty good at the moment. I went through a pretty good pre-season, so it's just making sure that I'm keeping on top of my body and making sure I'm still running fast and getting the speed into my legs as well. So I definitely don't want to lose that. But my fitness is there. But it is a good time for me to freshen up my body and get a few more Ks into my legs and build the tank a bit more as well. So even a bit more footy, which is good.
Sav, it's an incredible journey you went on to end up living in Geelong and playing for the Cats. Just going through the quick bit of research that we like to do here on this podcast, which isn't always a great deal of research.
We're not known for it, Cameron.
No. Born in Griffith, which raised Scotty Gullan's eyebrows.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
renowned.
You know where the bodies are buried, Sav.
No, a lot happened in that town, but I didn't really find out anything about that town until I moved out. So there you go.
You've got the right answers already. That's the way that town works.
So you live from Griffith.
Moved to Cobram, played for the Murray Bushrangers, and obviously ended up getting drafted by the Cats. I think 2016 draft it was. But your background is Fijian. What do you know of the family and your time in Fiji and ancestors in Fiji? Have you had a chance to do a bit more research and find out your family tree?
No, not really. I mean, I guess my family, Fiji's in general, are pretty good at the sports and have really good athleticism naturally. But again, I haven't really looked back. I mean, I get my height from my great grandfather. He was, I don't remember how tall he was, but he would always walk around with bare feet because they couldn't find shoes that could fit his feet. So, I get my height from him. And my father was a boxer, I think. So I get a lot of my athletic attributes from him. But other than that, mate, I haven't really looked into that. But I mean, when I go back to Fiji and visit all my cousins and uncles, like the athleticism that they show back there, and even every afternoon we go out and we play a bit of touch rugby, mate. Like, they're crazy athletes, mate. The speed that they have and the agility, like, so good to watch. And I'd love to see how many of those Fijians could join into the game and show what they got, because I reckon they'd kill the game.
Do they have much comprehension of Aussie rules football?
I mean, well, not really. There are a few, I guess, footy clinics and footy things run in Fiji, but mainly in the main cities. I mean, in the villages, it's so hard to get stuff out there, and it's all just rugby out there. But I mean, like a lot of the people there know who Nick Naitanui is and who knew who David Roden was and things like that. But I guess we could show them over there a bit more.
Hopefully they're going to know who Esava Ratugolea is very soon. I mean, the cousins clearly do, but right across Fiji is hold up a Premiership Cup for the Cats would be nice. But is it something that you want to do long term and get back there more and more and understand your Fijian roots? Yeah,
definitely. I haven't been back for a very long time, since I was maybe 12, 13 years old. But it'd be good to go back, and it'd be good to, I guess, take a bit of footy back there as well. I definitely want to do a bit of work with Stokesy in that department, and I don't know, just try and grow the game over there a bit. But it's just a bit hard for me because I haven't been there for ages and I don't talk a lot of Fijian. So it's just need to get the language going a bit and go back with a bit of confidence. That's the only thing.
Cameron, we started speaking about us going back, because obviously he needs a chaperone, and I'll put my hand up.
Oh, hang on, mate. You've crowbarred your way into Howie's podcast with Gaz, and now you want a trip to Fiji with Sav.
Yep.
Come on.
Maybe with the cut costing going on at the AFL Club, maybe it might not happen. But what my job is, and what I'm really passionate about, is making sure people that, regardless whether it's a culture or who they are, is being able to help find who they are. And Sav, I'm drawn to Sav straight away because of the person he is. He's probably one of the most loved. Always got a smile on his face. So I spoke to him at the start of the year and said, once pre-season's gone and we can start to work out, I've got some good connections over in AFL Fiji. We need to start to get over there and start to promote his image. And Sav was really, really keen to be on board. But obviously with everything that's going on at the moment, it probably looks like it's being put on the back burner. But Sav, as much as he's, there's two different types of people. There's people who always love to promote who they are, where they're from. Sav is a very proud Fijian boy, but he just likes to just be Sav himself. So, but Sav, I want to talk to you about your relationship with Hawk, because I think Hawk had Moons to help him and transition. It takes a little bit longer for your key forwards to be able to understand what it takes for your body to play the position that you play. Let's talk about the responsibility. Everyone knows Hawk's a great teammate, a great bloke. We'll talk to the listeners about the opportunity to be able to work with him and learn from him. I'm not saying that his career is coming to an end, but obviously in the next few years, we're probably have to going to deal with life without the great Hawk.
Yeah, no, Hawk's been great for my development. I mean, even before I joined the Cats, I looked up to Big Hawk, and always be watching his highlights and watching his body work and things like that. But he's been so good for my footy, and I don't know, anytime I can pick his brain is so good. He's taught me a lot of things about my patterns and my contested marking and things like that. But and he's so important when we're out on the field as well, when we're playing. He's so vocal, and he's constantly teaching me and teaching forwards around him. So mate, like I love playing with Hawkie. It's unreal.
He hasn't got you out to the farm to help Sav in this time of isolation?
Oh no, not working anyway. We've been to his house for some dinners and things like that, but no, he hasn't had us out there yet. He's had a few boys though in the past, helping him with his sheep and things like that. But
not for you.
No, I haven't been out there yet. No.
I reckon Geelong fans would love to know. I mean, obviously you can play in the ruck and forward. Is there one, like if we put a gun to your head, is it ruck or forward?
I mean, I trained a lot of pre-season as a forward, and I'd like to see myself as a forward. But I like getting into the midfield. It just gets me into the game a bit more, around the footy, around the contest. Like I feel better. But I see myself as a forward going into the future, definitely.
Tell us about as a forward, and we look at you athletically, but just you seem to play with such instinct, and the ball's up there, it's coming in there, you just launch at it. It doesn't matter if you're launching over a pack or it's a one-on-one, whatever it is, which is the thing that I love about you and Geelong fans love about you. The idea that modern footballers are overcoached now and there's too much coaching, you take away that instinct. Where's the balance for you? Do you want to know X amount about structures so you're doing a certain amount right?
I think
at the same time have your head clear?
Yeah. For me, I'm just reading the ball and I want to go where the contest is. So I want to make those early decisions and make sure I can be a kick away to create a contest. So as long as I'm doing that, all my natural instincts just kick in, and as soon as I see the ball in the air, I can fly to it. But I'm just making sure that I'm putting myself in good positions to create contests. But
so that structure part that we talk about with the coaching and that is just purely so you end up in the right spot. And then once you're in the right spot, instinct is back on then.
Yep, definitely. I think for me is just keep it simple and see how I go.
So what you're more or less saying is you listen to the coach to a certain level, and then after that you don't care. You just go play Sava way.
No, listen to the coach, Stokesy. Come on, mate.
Sav, I'm hoping you say to Stokesy, absolutely, because that's what every good forward does, Stokesy. You only tune in for a little bit and go, yeah, well, I know I should sort of be about there. And then it's just go to town and the forwards go to work.
Well, mine was easy. Mine was to chase Stevie and Chappie's man. And Hawkie.
And Moons.
And Moons. Jeez.
Who chases your man, Sav, or you actually do a little bit of that?
I try to do a little bit of it. I give it a crack, but I don't know. Look, Dow and Grind are usually there helping me out, mate.
That's good. That's why you got to keep the little blokes close, is it, Stokesy? That's why Moons is such good mates with you.
Yeah, exactly right.
So in isolation, who's the teammate you're most worried about?
Oh, most worried about? There's a couple of them, mate. Luke Dalhouse pops into mind straight away. Mate, that bloke needs to be around other people a lot of the time. So
we have heard that.
Yeah, he'd be struggling. Mark Blitzarves loves a chat. He'd be struggling as well. Those two are probably the main ones, I reckon.
We had Cam Tahini on last week. He's been pretty solid for a young bloke on the TikTok.
Mate.
He's pretty sane, or is he a bit of a worry?
Oh no, he's funny, teen. It's funny that one of the TikToks popped up in our WhatsApp group, and then a few weeks back, he was just posting one every day nearly, and he was giving us a bit of a laugh. But he's a funny character, Tahini.
The coach was worried, wasn't he, Scotty, that Charlie Constable was a little bit of a concern for him, or should we be not worried about him at all, Sav?
Chuka Constable, yeah, no, he's a good one. He's mate, that bloke loves a chat as well. I don't know how he's going. Hopefully he's keeping fit and keep those skin folds down.
That one likes a photo too, mind you. I've been getting a lot of selfies from certain types of people. You mentioned one name, Luke Dowerhouse.
Yeah.
There was a photo that came into my phone and you start smirking now. Sexy.
Yeah.
But I'll just let you know, when I go to bed at 9:30, I go to bed. All right? I don't want to see no photos of you and Dale together. This is obviously before isolation, mind you. I don't want to see photos of what you're doing.
No, it's all Luke, mate. Luke's a bad influence, mate.
Oh, he's a bad influence.
Yeah, he's the one that runs the show.
There we have it. The little bloke leading the big fella astray again.
Tell me wrong.
Oh, no.
Sav, really appreciate the chat, mate. We better leave you be. Go back to
Gardening.
gardening in
the backyard, Stokesy.
Can you get the front yard sorted so that Stokes has got nothing to complain about?
I think I will now that Stokesy said that.
I'm going to drive past afternoon to see.
Done, mate. Done.
Brilliant. Great to chat, Sav. All the best for whenever round 2 does roll around. We can't wait to see you playing in the blue and white hoops again.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother.
Great to chat with Big Esava Ratugolea there, little sexy. Great to have him on the podcast. Time for us to finish up. Next week, we'll get another couple of guests on board. Hopefully, Scotty, you've got to keep this quality up. These guys have been terrific so far.
We're batting at 100 at the moment, aren't we?
And what I'm enjoying most about it is they're coming on and they are unleashing on Stokesy. Which is
Wow,
providing a lot of
he
joy
does
for
draw
us.
out gold, our man.
Yeah, well, easy target.
Great to see you, Scotty. Great to see you, Stokesy. Thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you to Panther Tyres. We will be back again next week.